Thanks for joining today. Today we're going to run through our P6-Reporter tool. And this is a tool that's a combo of data warehousing, special queries that we've pre-built to help you report P6 data into other systems like Power BI, like Tableau, like Oracle Data Visualization or BI reporting tools, business objects, etc. Okay, so we've got clients using this with many other third-party reporting tools. I'm Nicole Jardin. I'm coming today from Calgary. It's cold. It's supposed to be summer, and oh well, we'll keep our chin up. That only means maybe we'll have a nice September and October and November, right, Mary Lynn? And Mary Lynn's joining us from Edmonton, and she's going to do the heavy lifting. She's going to show you the software in action. So let's touch on why we built this tool. So the real common struggles that we face with P6 is that P6 has the ability to have a lot of great data inside of it. Not only does it do scheduling, of course, it does resources, it can do costs, you can get earned value information, and so on. Now, that's all good, but ultimately, if we can't share that out and get others to see it, see when we need them, where we need them, and the priorities and so on, then we're missing what we need to do as a key part of project management, which is to communicate. So really the intent here is to use all that great data that we've got in P6 and get it out so it's usable, self-serve, more self-serve, in a controlled way, so secured, but self-serve. And the real idea is that it's in a tool that people may be using for other things already within the organization, okay? So why have another reporting engine that they've got to go into? Let's just get the data in a easier to use manner out to the masses. That's really the idea. Because the P6 data, if you're a P6 person, it seems easy to you. But if you've ever given a stack of Gantt charts to most people, they start flipping through page 1, page 2, and by the time they're at page 3, it's too complicated. They're not going to work with that. Even if you give them a good filtered layout, it can be a hard way to digest what I need to be working on. Okay, so the data can be too complicated, and the way we present it can be too complicated for the extended team. And again, depending on your projects, the extended team can be anywhere from a small subcontractor to a large international engineering company. So the skill set and the familiarity with P6, complicated Gantt charts and whatnot can be very different. So we want to get the who, what, when, where, how, why answered and out to the extended team in the simplest manner, one that's easy to consume. Now, depending on how you do things in P6, you may have found very clever ways to do this, right? We have clients who take copies of their projects and send those out into Excel. We have clients who have taken copies of the projects so that the data doesn't change as people are scheduling, but that doubles down on all your resources, and that's not a good thing. And it's work, and you could make mistakes. So the other real thing that the P6-Reporter brings is accuracy. Okay, no mucking about with filters, reports, Excel, copies and pastes. All that potential human error goes away. And it can be automated. So that's the other key thing. So we're bumping up the accuracy, we're bumping up the efficiency. So if you've ever been in, let's say, a turnaround, and you're on day 30 of the turnaround, your efficiency starts to go down as a scheduler, and it's possible that you'll make mistakes. So this goes away, this I have to push reports right after I've done all this updating. That goes away because we can automate much more of it. And the efficiency goes up not only from not having a scheduler having to get the reports out so much in the middle, but also the ability to self-serve at any time of the day, right? Oh, I forgot the schedule printout and I need something. Well, now I can pop it open on my tablet. I can look at it on a phone. Lots of different, more efficient ways to get at the data. Because ultimately, we're trying to get people to have the best data available to make strong business decisions. If you have to make a decision on sending a crew to job A versus job B, you want to make sure job A is the critical path item and not job B. Okay, so you need to understand that, and you need to make sure you've got the best data to make those business decisions. And again, depending on where you work, I've worked in a mining plant with one of my clients where they met once a day with a very expensive group of people around the table. You needed to have good schedule quality. Otherwise, you were wasting thousands of dollars just in the meeting, let alone making mistakes potentially on directing people. Okay, so really key to get the super strong P6 data that we've got out to the right people easily. And that's what P6-Reporter really brings to the table. It lets you share the data in a self-serve manner, controlled, secured, and much easier for someone to digest. That was our focus when we built this tool. Okay, so let me ask a quick question. How do you do your self-serve dashboards for your team? So if you want to go ahead and answer, that would be wonderful. So as I mentioned, Excel is still fairly commonly used, but we're seeing more and more reporting engines be put on top. And then some still use some reports just from P6. So we do see that, but I think more and more we've got people using different tools, okay? So it's definitely a trend that I've noticed probably in the last 18 months within the clients that I've worked with. More and more want to add on corporate reporting engines, dashboard engines. So that's what our focus was when we put P6-Reporter together. So early days, 10 years ago or so, we built our own dashboarding tool. The technology was Adobe Flex, and then they discontinued the support of that. So what we decided to do instead of building another dashboarding tool was to support stronger, easier ways to push the data into any tool that the client is already using. So the way it works, it's essentially two pieces of our toolkit. So we've got our data warehouse, which accepts the snapshots. So you push the snapshot from P6 into the data warehouse. When you do that, we deal with all the accuracy. Okay, so there are things like spreads. So we call them spreads. So spreads, if you're doing resources or costs, spreads are all those time interval amounts of man hours that you're using, okay, or rebar that you're installing, or piping, or whatnot. Okay, so that's what a spread is. So that data is available to you in P6 on the screen, but it's not available readily in any tables. So if your team is going directly at the P6 database to get the data out, you're going to have some trouble with that. So we've taken care of that. The spreads are fully there, comprehensive. They match P6. And by doing the snapshots, you get a lot of flexibility because you have, it's similar in a way to a baseline, but you have a snapshot. We've made the fields and the tables easier to consume, so they're easier to build reports off of, and the accuracy is there. So that is why we say it brings you more flexibility, because you can start to make more comparisons. I can compare the last schedule update to 2 updates ago or last year at the same time. So it brings a lot of flexibility in terms of comparisons, not only to a baseline, but to snapshots as well, which allows you to start to get into things like impact analysis. So we can use this data to compare schedules. What's changed in the schedules? Why did it change? And you can start to build impact analysis around it. So the comparison piece is huge and something that you don't usually get if you're just taking an Excel dump out for the current status. Okay, so going beyond self-serve, I need to know what I'm working on now. But for management, when they start to ask you, well, why did we slip? What happened? Where did things go awry? You can start to answer those questions with the snapshotting that we've got. Now, as I mentioned, we also do what is called denormalizing. So it makes the data easier to get at and easier to work with when building reports. Okay, so if you need to build a new chart, we're talking usually, okay, depending on how complicated it is, an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 on the very, very off chance it's highly complicated. Okay, so we've tried to get you a foundation to work with in the tools that you're already using within your organization through the P6-Reporter components. Now, in terms of what we snapshot, well, we snapshot just about everything that you need to do reporting. So we've got the top level portfolios. So not only do we take the project data, we take issues as well if you use that. At the activity level, we're talking about, of course, WBS activities and steps. So we've got all those layers. We also have the logic and the calendars that go along with the activities. And then you get into the lowest detail, which is the spreads, so resources and expenses. So we have the ability to grab all the different layers of data in P6, and then that gets it available for you to report on it. So Marilyn will run through how it works, and then she's going to show you some examples. This is food for thought, okay? Because in terms of what you might want, the sky's the limit on reports. So we do snapshots, then we've got our pre-built views on the data to help make it easier to get that into your system. And then you've got the reporting, which goes into the data display, into the tool you're using. Okay, so we're going to touch on Power BI and Tableau. They seem to be the most common ones that we're getting requests for, but we've definitely done ClickView, we've done business objects, we've done BI Publisher and Oracle Data Visualization, which are 2 of the Oracle ones. So those come to mind, and there are likely others, but those are the ones that come to mind immediately. And then from there, you can do comparisons, you can have KPIs and different metrics and different scorecards and whatnot. So again, we're going to show you some examples, and Marilyn will touch on all the different layers. So I think I'll pass it over to Marilyn, and she can take over and do the presentation and show us the tools the components in action.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen here and we'll have a look. The first thing I'd like to have a look at, and I'm in Power BI right now, but we have some reports, and this, as Nicole mentioned, this is not a limit of what you can do with these reports. This is just food for thought. So in this particular scenario, what we've got is what we term a racetrack display. Now, if you look in the top left corner of both of these pieces, there's different report dates. Well, what we're going to do is I'd like to show you first just how easy it is to take a snapshot of a project. So this particular project has an October snapshot, it has a November snapshot. So if I go in and I select the December snapshot, you'll see it's got no data. So let's go and resolve that particular issue. So what I'm going to do here is just close that down for a second so I don't get too busy a screen going. And this is my project file. So I'm just going to make a couple of updates in here, and then we'll create a snapshot and we'll send it over, and you'll see right away how easy it is to create the snapshot. And I'm going to be doing it manually, by the way. And as Nicole mentioned, you can automate this whole process so that you can have your snapshots taken at certain points. So what I want to do here is I have an activity and I've got some update information, and this one has a bit of an issue. They've actually slipped it out a few months. So that's where we're going to select it. And also, of course, when that activity gets extended, what I need to do, of course, is reschedule. That you'll see that'll end up pushing a few others out, but hey, that is what happens when you start getting some delays in things. So if I schedule this, now if that is my update, I'll keep it short so we don't spend our time updating activities. Now, if I want to create my snapshot, all I have to do is go to my projects tab, and we have a layout here that has the fields that you want to be aware of. You want to know what's in them, and a couple of them we have to put some information in. Now, again, this is me doing it manually. If it's automated, I can do my update and just wait for the automation to create the snapshot. So for what I'm going to do here, of course, I need to give it a snapshot period. So we want to create the the December one. Whoops. So I'll create the December one. And the other thing that I usually do is take out the last snapshot. It comes up and tells you snapshot okay. Well, I'm going to take that out just so it's very easy to see when it pops back in, you know it's finished. And all I have to do is set it to go. In other words, I've told the software to take the snapshot. So it usually just takes a minute or two to go through. So just while we're waiting for that to go through,
And
what we
how often would you do that, Mary Lynn? Take a snapshot. What are your thoughts on that?
depending on what project you're dealing with, in some cases you'd want to do one after each update, depending on how often your updates are. Realistically, I mean, even in a turnaround situation, you could be taking them after each update because very commonly on turnarounds that I've worked on, we have put a lot of labor into creating the comparison reports that Nicole was speaking about. So if you took your snapshot after each update, it's easy. You've got the information there. You can have the report pre formatted, and you need to feed the snapshots into the report. Your work is done. Very easy.
Okay.
Now, depending on, of course, depending on what you're dealing with, for report wise, you may have two different scenarios happening because you may have a situation. I've worked a couple projects where weekly you did a set of reports, but then at the end of the month you did another set. Sorry, excuse me. And you may be taking a snapshot at a slightly different time if your month end is exactly at month end, depending on how that's being handled. So I'm just going to refresh here. Should be just about ready, I think. And as soon as that comes up and tells us it's passed, There we go. So this tells us our snapshot's complete. So now I'm just going to close P6 here for a second, because where we want to go, of course, is back to our racetrack. So now all I need to do here is refresh. Well, no, sorry, I'll just do it this way. So I had already asked for the December snapshot when there was nothing in it. So I'm just asking it to refresh my screen, and there's the information. Now I made one change and rescheduled. And of course you can see very, very easily that this contracting pipeline line is a lot longer than it used to be, because it used to be stopping 8th of June. It now goes out to the 7th of October, and it's actually pushed some of it out a little bit farther. But you can see right away, you're going to have your new information available basically in an instant, so that you can do your comparisons. Now, whether it's racetrack information, you could also do that with a lot of other pieces of information, as you'll see as we go through a few of the other reports. But you can see from that the whole um, snapshot scenario is not more difficulty being put into the mix. Even if you want to take a snapshot manually, you've seen it's extremely easy, comes across very quickly, and I've got the layout of the report with the brand new information in it at my fingertips. Now, if I wanted to compare, for example, December to the previous one we have, October, previous to November here, you can do that as well. So you can do a lot of different things with this. So if we go and have a look at a few of the other reports, and please, as we go through these, just keep in mind that these are food for thought. You will probably hear me say a few times, "Oh, I've used this one so many times." I apologize ahead of time. It's because I really have. So let's go to the management dashboard first. So we have a number of dashboards here. So what these are is configured to pull specific pieces of information together. Now, you might be wondering, well, what would I use this for? I can come in here and I can tell at a glance, if I'm looking at my portfolio, okay, have I got projects that are late, early? What's going on here? Well, I've got some that I probably want to keep an eye on for sure. I've got late projects, on time, early. Now, this is one that I've had to pull from P6. This is oh so much easier, because that's a lot of work to pull it out and get it into like a nice graph format out of P6. There's work involved, definitely. Project amount over budget. So you can tell at a glance. One of the projects in my portfolio that I need to kind of watch a little bit, I've been keeping track of it because it's not faring as well as I had hoped. So facility 2B. Now, this particular one, if I hover over any of these, I can see the amount over budget. Well, we'll see some other reports where we can dig a little deeper into that, so to speak. We've got over allocated hours. And then down on the along the bottom of this one, we have milestone trending. Now, this is another one. I'm sure you have all had to produce milestone trending reports out of P6. Again, when you're doing it straight out of P6, it's extremely labor intensive. Like it takes way too long, and it can be frustrating. So if I'm looking, for example, at these milestone trending ones, I realize when you're looking at this dashboard, if you've got it open on a tablet or even on a computer screen that's not perhaps as large as it needs to be, you can go in and you can zoom into each one of these. So just something to be aware of. This is Power BI, which is part of the reason, but I can open it in focus mode. Now, when you're looking at milestone trending and walking across with looking at the different pieces in here, I find this easiest to use. So you do have that option as well, but it gives you all of that information Again, self-serve at your fingertips. So you can check up, as I did, on facility 2B, whatever project you think you've been perhaps watching, or just generally have a look and see which ones have the color coding that's kind of bouncing out at you that you know you need to have a look at it. Now there is some other dashboards here as well. This example is done off drilling files, in case anybody's wondering why the title's here. So you could have different dashboards that are not necessarily pipeline, depending on your business. This is food for thought. So pipeline dashboard is going to give you, of course, you've got our allocate by, this is pipeline crew resources. And then I've got, again, milestones, pipeline crew activities. Now, same thing, same idea for the roads piece that's in all of my portfolio, and the wells piece. So you've got a lot of very valuable data that you can see is very easy to access. It's very easy to digest. As Nicole was saying, you don't have to go in and either run report 6, 7, and 8 out of P6 and make sure you've got the right files open and the right filters in place, et cetera, to get what you need. It's there. You know it's correct. You know that it's automated in the background. So you haven't clicked on anything that's going to cause an issue with that. So if we go down one level, now we started out at dashboards. So you can create different dashboards. These are some food for thought, very easy way to get very valuable information into your team's hands. And they don't have to know anything about how P6 works as far as the scheduling. How do I do reports? How do I do filters? So let's have a look at the portfolio piece. Now there is a portfolio dashboard here. And in this particular one, I'm going to just fold this up for a second, give myself a little more screen space. This one has, again, very useful information. So I have got the report date. This is my snapshot date. So again, you've got full comparison. You can click back and look at last month's and then look at this month. It's going to give you the information. But before I do that, let's just have a quick look at what's in here. So I've got upcoming, and I've got over allocated resources at a glance. I don't have to go and look for them. Now, projects. Here's my portfolio of projects. Percent complete, total cost overages. I've got under, duration over, duration under, labor hours over, labor hours under. That is very heavy hitting, high level information, definitely. All at your fingertips. And it's even got color coding on it so you can see which ones are having real issues. So, for example, my facility 2B, labor hours, it's over by 395 hours in the November snapshot. And we'll look at December in a minute, because that's one of the things you can tell really quick. It's over. So I probably want to go to the next snapshot if there's a newer one and see, for example, okay, did it improve? Or have I got a huge issue that's gotten even worse? Now, I've got late and early in the portfolio. So again, if you find that those are a little bit small, you can go in and open this in focus mode. Now that one gets a little bit big, but if you find it too small, you can definitely have a look at this one and click on different pieces. It's going to give you the pop-up window to show you what you're actually looking at, that kind of scenario. So if I go back to the report, now I've got budget status, same idea. It's giving you statistics that work on your entire portfolio information. So projects by PM. Now here's an interesting one. You've got labor hours by drill team. In these particular files, of course, they are drilling. So in these particular files, you can roll up the information by drill team. So if I'm looking at this centerpiece here, where I've got all the statistics on the projects, what if I want to find out if there's another file? Maybe I don't want to scroll all the way down to the bottom, all the way back up. Maybe I want to find out, is there another file that has an issue, fairly high issue with labor hours? So I can click on the column header and I can resort on the column header, that type of thing.
Yeah,
So
that is so handy, really handy.
So you can look up different things and make things a little bit easier for yourself. And again, you can click back on project name. Maybe that's what you recognize it by the easiest. That's what it was, by the way. So I'm just putting it back the way it was. But you can pick any of these columns and sort on it so that you can get a view. Again, self-serve. I didn't have to request another report. I didn't have to go in and change the sort order in an existing report. All the information is here. All I have to do is go through and click to identify where I need to focus my attention. Now, we did talk about facility 2B. This poor little project is struggling a bit. You can see that when you look at the information. Now, maybe I'm wondering, where does it fit in as far as budget hour status by team? I don't necessarily have to come over here. I can click on facility 2B, and it's in the central team. It's going to tell you that. It's also over budget, so it comes up in there as well. And Bob Beagle is the project PM. So that's just another piece I just want to people to be aware of, because I find that really handy, that little extra piece in there. Now, the color coding really gives you an at a glance type of scenario, because you can tell really quickly by the colors. Facility 2B, labor hours over 395. Well, of course, it's got a darker orange around it than the time element, which is only -30. And I wouldn't say only, because that's not good, but it's in respect to how far over they are. The worse shape they're in, the darker the color, basically, is what happens. So I did say we could go to another report date. So let's just have a look at the 12th. I keep saying 12th, my apologies, did the December snapshot. So if I look at that, oh, okay, there is a change in my facility 2B. It's now 120 hours over. Well, that's encouraging. Now, I probably want to go and have a look at a few other pieces of information in some other reports to confirm exactly what's going on. But you can see right there, I can tell between November and December, as far as the labor hours on that project, there's been a bit of an improvement. Of course, I would be the person who's always saying, okay, and the details are. So let's go have a look at project detail. So there is a set of reports here for project detail. Again, food for thought. So don't let what we're showing you limit and think, okay, that's the limit of what you can do. There it is, exactly that, food for thought. So project detail. Now, if I'm looking at project detail, this one happens to be set on facility 2B already. So you've got some high level information on the project itself as well. Now you can tell duration percent complete. This project is not complete. You've got some highlighting as to the degree of issues that you're dealing with here. So total cost, I've got a couple of them here that are highlighted. Yeah, I need to have a look and see what's going on. Now you'll see that that is looking at November. So of course, again, we can change it to look at December as soon as I click on the right one, sorry. And I can have a look at, now here's December. Now, not a lot of change as far as the -30 days, that type of scenario, but we did improve a little bit as far as dollar value that it's over. So if we want to look at another piece of information here, labor hours. Here's my labor hours. They were in November, when we looked at the high level, they were over 300. Now it's minus 120. So it has improved. Now I could look at the activities over the labor budget. Now there would have been a change between December and November. So if I maybe can't remember which one it is, I can go in and I can have a look at this, and you can see what's happened here. It's pretty easy to see that between November and December, this particular activity, there has definitely been a change to the labor charges on it. So it gives you very quick information as to where you need to start looking. So if we go to costs, now when we're looking at costs, okay, facility 2B, you can see it's over budget, but this will also tell you which cost is over budget. So you can tell at a glance, over by labor, over by material, over by non-labor cost. In this case, it's over by labor. Now, just while we're in here, there is one other one. I'll just show you an example of one that displays, it's got a little different scenario going on there. So if I go down and I need to go to 111319 is one I was looking at. So you can see, you'll see what's happening with each one of the costs. So I've got, in this case, labor cost is under, material cost is over. So all of that information I find very valuable when you can see it at a glance, and you've got activities over budget and activities under budget. So again, you've got so much information that you can drill into very, very easily. Now, if I go to activities, and because I really need to have a look at how facility 2B is doing, here's all my activities. So on the November snapshot, I had 10 activities. These are very small sample files, by the way. I have 10 activities on time. I've got 18 late, and I've got some other information that is being filtered out for me. Activities starting this month, finishing this month. So I've got also some information on specific activities with days early and late, that type of scenario. Now, same idea if I want to look at critical activities at that point in time, it's telling me I've got not critical activities. I've got 7 late and out of the critical ones, and 1 on time. Now, if I want to just have a quick look at December, so if I change this and let's have a look at December, and of course it'll look better if I go to December's baseline as well. You can see we've got slightly different numbers here. So on time 9, late 19. So you can very quickly pick up on not only the total numbers, but on each activity, what's actually going on. And don't forget, if you want to create other reports where you're directly comparing a specific piece that maybe you want set up slightly differently, these are food for thought. So it's not a limit at all to what you can do. Now, we spoke briefly about milestone trending in the management dashboard. We also have another look for milestone trending. So if I'm looking at the milestone trending, here's my ready for production. So it gives me the information, and I can go and hover over the elements, and you're going to get that little pop-up window. I also have milestone date, the project, and whether it's actualized or not. Now, maybe ready for production isn't what I want to look at. Maybe I want to look at something a little different. So maybe I'll look at ready to license roads and paths. You'll see it's very interactive. You choose what you want to look at. So any of this information, depending on what you're looking for, it's just a few clicks away. So I can go back to my ready for production if I wanted, or choose any of the other ones. And if I'm looking at a specific type of milestone, I can also change, like we did before, as you stack up your snapshots, they're still there. Even though you're looking at your most current one, they're still there for reference. So here's November. So I can look at November. And again, you can do other comparisons as well. I'll show you one in just a second. Now, if I go in and I click on December, you can see right on your screen what's changing. So again, very easy. And we haven't had to log into P6 or worry about filters in P6. The snapshots on these formatted reports are doing all the work for you. What you need to do is look up the information that you need for which projects are you concerned about, that kind of thing, and delve into it. It's all there. Just a few clicks and your whole team can have all the current information they need. So the other one I wanted to show you, Milestone Trending. We have side by side as well. So you can do the comparison November, October snapshot. You could go November, December, and you can choose this is ready to license well site. So you've got the same type of filter here. So just like we were changing it in the other report, you can do that same here, but sometimes it makes it a lot easier if you can see it side by side. I know I do that with things when I'm doing direct comparisons. I'm looking for them. If I can split my screen side by side, I can usually get to what I'm looking for really quickly. Now, we do have a report that is resource allocation as well. Now, you can pick the snapshot. So we could change between snapshots here to see what's going on with the resources. But in any snapshot as well, you have some functionality that's going to allow you to dig some information out that perhaps you wouldn't realize when you first see the report. So again, as Nicole was saying, self-serve for the dashboards. So if your team's got access to the dashboards and this on the screen isn't exactly what they're looking for, they need to drill it down a little bit more, they can do that right on this dashboard. So for example, if I'm looking at pipeline crew for this particular snapshot, if I'm looking, I'm going to know right away, okay, I have an overload, which I mean, by our calendar, I realize already happened. But if I was still sitting at the December snapshot, or November snapshot, this is telling me quite a ways out. So if I look at this overload, what exactly can I get out of here other than just hovering over the bars? Well, it's actually quite interesting. So over allocated hours are in the table on the top left. I've got the profile in the top right. Now, if I go in, maybe I'm looking at facility 2B, this project that I'm tracking. If I want to know where do the hours for facility 2B fall in this profile, just click on it. There they are. So it's not part of the overload. Now it's also changing what you're seeing for the activity. So it's not showing you all the activities. So if I click back on here, it's going to bring all the information back. Now, maybe I'm looking at that particular overload and I'm wondering what is generating it. You saw the bottom of my screen just changed. It's telling me what is contained, what's generating that particular overload, that type of scenario. So I can also go in and I can click and keep walking across so you can see the list here and the Gantt bars of what's actually generating that particular profile. Now, one thing I found a couple of times quite useful, and it depends on the scenario you're dealing with, but I'll just show you another element here. So if I look at this first file, it'll tell you where that profile is sitting. So if I'm looking at a what if scenario and I'm going, okay, where do I want the other ones to be using the resource? So you can go down and you can select it. And this last one just put me into an overload situation. So maybe the last one isn't what I want. I want to go down and select one more. Their resources are over here. So not that you would necessarily finalize it from there, but this is very handy to see what activities are actually generating parts of your profile here.
Yeah, you could use this in a meeting if you're trying to discuss which ones would be prioritized, which one might slip, right? That would be really, really handy.
For sure. Okay, my apologies. I see that we're kind of running a little bit out of time here. So we've touched on a number of the ones in Power BI. Now, there is a couple more, well, 2 or 3 more I'd like to give you a quick look at. They're actually sitting in Tableau, but that's fine. I'll just bear with me a second here. I'm just going to minimize this for a second, and I'm just going to bring, I've got it on my other screen, just going to bring it across here.
So some of the normalizations, denormalizations that we've done, right? Imagine she's showing you codes at the project level, the activity level. You know, if you've ever had to try and look at the back end of P6 to pull all that together, it's quite a bit of stuff. So we've made that much easier to get at and pull and put into a dashboard. So that's a key fundamental, that in conjunction with the snapshotting that she showed you at the beginning. And then you stick it into the reporting engine that your company's already using, right? So your team doesn't have to learn another tool. We could be putting these inside of dashboards that are including data from other systems that they're using, whether it's a safety system or whatnot. So think of that, the power of that. That's really the point of all this. And she's just giving you, again, the food for thought ideas. Go for it, Marilyn.
So without having to worry about having your whole team either go and ask a scheduler or whoever is running P6, they have to go in and do a whole bunch of work. These reports are already there. So give them access to the self-serve dashboards and everybody's on the same page, so to speak. They're dealing with the same information. If you've ever been in a meeting, and I've gone through this more times than you would think, have you ever gone to a meeting where somebody's run their report and somebody else has a report that was run and it was given to them? The two don't say the same thing. You can end up using up a lot of time in the meetings with big discussions about why one person's report says one thing and why the other person's report says something else. So having self-serve dashboards, everybody's operating with the same information. There's absolutely no chance that somebody ran a report and forgot to set a filter or set it wrong or grabbed 3 out of 4 files or something like that. Not going to happen. Your snapshots can be automated, as we said, and the software will take care of it for you. So this particular dashboard is in Tableau, but this is the portfolio one, very similar to the one we looked at. Now, I do realize we're running a little bit squeezed on the time, but there is some in here I wanted to just give you a look at, because these are ones I have personally witnessed projects doing them manually. So this is what we refer to as Greenup Reports. And what this does is takes your turnaround schedule and it will pull relief valve summary, control valve summary, whatever elements you want to pick up on. Now, I've worked turnarounds where we had 500 PSVs, for example, that were coming out to be serviced, replaced, whatever was needed, and they needed to be of course, reinstalled after. So you were really tracking them closely, because if you got to the point where they needed to reinstall it and for some reason that valve wasn't ready, you got a problem. So what we did was reports like this, only at that point in time, they weren't pulled electronically. They weren't run on Tableau or Power BI. We actually had sheets in a boardroom, and before each of the status meetings, the people who were responsible for tracking this, controlling this, would come in and update it. And yeah, you know what I'm going to say next, with a highlighter. So that's extra work people are doing that it no longer needs to be done. So this is going to roll all the information up. Doesn't matter if you got 500 relief valves or if you've got 50. It's going to take care of it for you. You can tell at a glance if there's something out of whack here. So if I've got something, for example, you'll notice if I go down to the control valves here, I know I've got a problem here because I've got 100% install the valve and 100% on I&E checkout, and nothing else is status. That's something that tells you you've probably somebody missed some statusing. So this is a very, very easy way to see that as well without having to go back to your P6, roll it up, and start going through all the little groups and trying to figure out what is actually status that should be and what was missed. Now we've got another one that is exchangers. So same idea. It's a Greenup. In other words, it's rolling up all of this exchanger data by what status it's at here. And the same thing for piping summary. So those are not the limit to it. You can create Greenups for whatever elements you need, but this is one I did want to make sure everybody got a quick look at, because this is ever so much easier than having to print out big, I always call it wallpaper type of thing, and have people manually update it or something like that, so that when the discussion happens in the meetings, you're all focused on the same thing. This way, as Nicole said, open your tablet, put it through a projector onto the boardroom wall, that kind of thing, and you're ready to rock. You don't have to worry about it. Now, we looked at racetracks. We've got another racetrack. I won't go through all of them, but just so that you know, looks a little different because it's grouped by different things. So we've got system and then the function or work that's going on across the time frame. So again, more food for thought. And I hope this has given you some interesting food for thought for your particular projects. And on that note, my apologies, I've taken a little more time than I should have, but I'll pass it back to Nicole. Thanks, everybody.
Let's just go to the Greenup just for one quick sec. So both this one and the last one Marilyn showed you, that could, if you use P6, right, with a Gantt, that could be hundreds of pages of Gantt. It could be that are being represented in such a nice, simple fashion on one screen here. So that's really the key thing, that just with being able to push the data out in a consistent manner and having these dashboards automatically pulling the data, it just changes the whole dynamic of the communication in the project team. And as she touched on, you can see if something's out of whack, right? If you have 100% on step 4 and step 1, 2, and 3 in the effort to get a control valve ready, you know, something's wrong, right? Because so an update's missing, or that 100% is wrong, something's wrong. So you tangibly, you can touch it much better, much quicker. So these are really, really interesting and worth exploring. Okay, I'll take it back and I'll do the wrap up. So I don't see any questions right now. If you do have any, throw them in and we'll tackle them as we finish up. But hopefully you saw some things that could be interesting for your group, because a lot of us work on pretty complicated projects. There's a lot of team members. and you need to communicate all sorts of things. Okay, so one of the examples that were really strong that we worked on with dashboards was inspection reports, right? The inspections on equipment, they are very dynamic. You got to go to where the inspection is ready. So to think that the inspector is going to know days in advance where they're going to have to be, no, it doesn't work that way, right? They've got to respond to what work face is actually open for inspection. So giving them a Gantt chart is just like killing trees for nothing. As soon as you give it to them, it's out of date. So that's where these dashboards using the snapshotting become so powerful. So let's just touch on some of the benefits and the feedback that we've received. So the visibility, okay. Now we talk about turnarounds. We work a lot in the oil and gas space, mining space, electrical utility type space. We work in shutdowns, turnarounds, and outages in the nuclear space. So the visibility when you're in a project like that is huge. An hour delay of decision making could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly. So it's hugely important to streamline that and get the data out in a reliable way every single time. No middleman messing up or slowing things down. Very, very streamlined. And then, of course, making sure you've made the communication as simple as possible. Okay, so you can see the issues very quickly. That is the key. That's what we're all trying to do. That's everything we're trying to do in P6 is to make sure we got the right people at the right place at the right time. And then the ability to not have to deal with Excel and deal with imports, exports, copy, paste, all of that busy work, I guess is the word I'll use, is gone. Okay, so that also takes some stress off your scheduling team. I've been there when you had to produce a report, you grabbed the wrong one or you blew away the filter or whatnot and you produced the wrong thing. All that goes away. And then the focus is really on earned value now. You can see much clearer what is going on with different crews. You can compare two similar crews side by side. We didn't show you any of those, but we've got some like that. And you can see like what's going on. Why is this crew productivity much lower than the other? Okay, so you can do that sort of analysis and you actually have time to do it and the tools to do it. So we have a few various examples. One that's interesting is Talus, and this was the aerospace group that we worked with and the technology group. So they wanted reports out that you could not do in P6 because we needed a combination of project codes and resource and activity codes. We are able to do that in the reporting engines using our tools. Before that, they were using a bunch of graphics in Excel with a lot of complex formulas in it. So all of that went away. And the key for them was to forecast the resources. With it being such a specialized industry, they only had certain engineers, certain specialists who could do the kind of work. So forecasting the resourcing, not only today, but down the road, 3-year projections was what they were looking at, and being able to compare this month to the last year usage and understanding upcoming potential projects. They were able to do that very, very successfully with this approach. So that kind of complex resource analysis, very, very strong. And then Suncor Energy is one of our big clients that we worked with since 1999, so a very long-term client. So some of that green ups that Marilyn showed was off of their work. And then some of the work we've done with them into business objects also includes reporting on safety, safety hours, incidents versus safety. So it's an amalgamation of other systems to do dashboarding. So those are some examples, and we've got many others, but that's just, again, to give you some different ideas, different industries and perspectives. One of the ones, if you're doing buildings, you could compare the different crews on different floors and see where they are, and that would be really nice in that race tracking that she showed you as well. Okay, so I'll just check if there's any questions. Can you do that forecasting using roles? Yes, absolutely. So our snapshotting is not limited to resources. We take the roles as well. And if it makes more sense to group by primary roles as well as base roles, yes, you could definitely do it that way. Exactly. And usually you're not right down to the person in the reporting necessarily, unless there are a few specific people who can become crunch points for sure. So yes, although we showed you a resource, you can certainly use the roles as well. And you could use role codes, resource codes. Now that's in the newest version. We've got role codes. We also have resource assignment codes now. Okay, so they've added some new features there to make the resource reporting even stronger. Okay, well, thanks for spending the last hour with us. Hopefully you saw some things that your team can use, and you've got some ideas on things that you might want to push forward. So this P6-Reporter is just one of many tools that we've got. If you've been on our website, you can see we have a very, very strong toolkit. I think probably the strongest toolkit out of any partner to help you use P6 even better. We have tools for the other Oracle, CGBU tools as well, but P6 is a big focus for us, and that's because we've always had programmers on our team for the last 27 years, because we focused on integration. So we've got a lot of great tools. So take a look at our website. If you're heavy into P6 or just getting started with P6, go see some of the other things that we can help you with. And we've got webinars. We're just working on our July and August schedule that you should definitely explore. If you do a lot of importing, for example, we've got P6 Scrubber, which helps you with that. Lots and lots of different tools. P6 Loader, if you want data loaded in from your estimating or from third party. P6 Loader is a fantastic tool. People are using that all around the world. So go explore. We've got a lot of solutions to help you with P6. Okay, let me just see if there are any more questions. So yes, in terms of the presentation, we will share it. I did press the record, so that's good. And we will definitely share it with you after. We've got both Donna and Mary Lynn's contact info there if Donna's in the Philippines. So if you're closer to her, feel free to reach out. And Mary Lynn's info is there as well. So reach out. We are definitely here to help. And if you saw some things that look interesting, we are happy to chat through. The tool is not that expensive in the scheme of things. We're talking as little as a few $100s a month for your whole team. And if you've got a larger portfolio, it might be a little bit more. But that comes back very, very quickly, not only in the effort hours, but also in the problem solving that you get out of it. So I think it's an excellent add-on, very robust, and we can stand clients up pretty quick. We're talking within a few weeks to develop some strong dashboards with the tool. So it's pretty quick to roll out as well. Okay, I'll stop the recording here.